welcome back to the Witchy Web Weave. I'm Alara.
I'm Alex.
And today we're going to be talking about manifestation bowls. So, we're going to start off with just talking in general about what a manifestation bowl is. And then we're going to shift cameras and shift locations. And we're going to do a kind of a walkthrough where you're going to see us put together our own manifestation bowls. Which, for the purposes of that, mine will be a self-love bowl.
And mine's a prosperity health bowl.
There we go. So, what is a manifestation bowl? A manifestation bowl is a very useful, it can be a very subtle and low-key type of spell for manifesting whatever intent that particular bowl has been spelled with. So,
yeah, I was gonna say it's there's other ways to manifest things, right? Other ways to do spell work or however you want to call it. I think manifestation bowls are something we both liked because it is very subtle, especially for her. She's kind of from the closet here, right? So it's something you can definitely do if you're in the closet, out of the closet, whatever, broom closet related. And it's kind of an artsier way to do something.
It can be very pretty and very beautiful. It can be very aesthetically pleasing, which is, I think, a part of why it can be done so subtly, is because then it literally looks like a room decoration.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've got mine set up in my room right now, and I think it actually looks rather gorgeous and beautiful. And I actually had my mom come into my room for a particular reason at one point, and all of my stuff had been, that whole thing had been set up. And she just looked at it and was like, oh, that's really cute. It's like, oh yeah, I just put it together,
Pretty much.
Mom had no clue.
Right. So yeah, it's something pretty, and then y'all will see what ours look like, obviously, here later on. But I think the other reason a lot of people like these is because they're so customizable.
They really are. You can do one for almost any intention. Like, you can do a bowl that is specifically, because manifesting can not only be bringing something in, but keeping something out.
Mm-hmm.
Like manifesting a barrier or manifesting protection. So you can make a bowl specifically for something like that, or you can do self-love, you can do abundance, prosperity. A lot of people do money bowls or
Mm-hmm.
wealth bowls. There is a beautiful one done by the Witch of Wonderlust that I would highly recommend y'all checking out if you haven't already seen it.
Yeah, we'll probably link that.
Yeah.
Just because it's a really neat one. That's where, kind of like, because mine's a little closer to that than hers is, so mine was kind of prosperity, abundance, but mine was also kind of, just because health and wealth stones are kind of really similar in color and usage, so they kind of all serve dual roles. And it's a long list, but I will leave everything I used in my bowl. I don't think I mentioned it by name because I was using so much stuff, and I actually added a couple things after we made the bowls, after the fact. So I didn't think of adding those pieces in until I really looked and read about them. And then they're not really bowl pieces, but another thing I was reading that you can or can't do, so it depends on what's in the bowl and what it's for really, but you can leave like a palm stone or worry stone or something on top or in there that you can just then take out and kind of carry around with you during your day, just to kind of have that energy with you throughout the day. So one of the pieces I put in there was actually my worry stone, one of the ones I use. I use it at home normally just because I'm afraid of losing or breaking it. But if you guys had something that was more like something that you could throw in your pocket or a purse, that would also be a really good. It's it's charged up from being in the bowl, kind of like sitting in there, getting all the juices and energies flowing, and then it's with you all day. So you can even do that with like a pendant or something on a chain, and then just slip it on and off.
I now keep my necklace that you guys see me wearing a lot. I know it's resting in my bowl right now. I have been using my bowl to kind of charge it, so that I could carry some of that self-love intention and that energy around with me, along with the strength. So now my talisman right now has become a strength and self-love type thing for me. So I want to say that's kind of the thing that I really enjoy about the manifestation bowls, because it is really good for creating a particular energy that you're trying to draw into yourself or draw into a particular area, like particularly my room.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really good if you're wanting to bring certain energy into your life, or just into your a physical space,
Mm-hmm.
as well as it is something that, depending on what you put into the bowl, it is something that you can kind of. Manifestation bowls always need to be fed in some way, or on a rather regular basis, either by putting something in or taking something out. It needs to be interacted with to keep that energy from stagnating and to keep it flowing and keep like bringing it into you.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more that you are aware of it, rather than just leaving it in the background and forgetting about it, the more you are consciously aware of it and like thinking about it, and every time you see it or every time you interact with it, you're thinking about that intention, you're putting that intention back into it, and it's just helping to circulate and grow that energy and really, help it do its job.
Mm-hmm.
Which I had a thought. I had something I was going to say. It was literally in my mouth, about to be spoke. And it died.
Pew, pew.
I'm telling you, I got nothing.
It happens. Yeah, I was gonna say something too. My brain just kind of fizzled. Jesus, what happened? Just. But that's what I was gonna say. I remembered my thought. Maybe it'll help.
You go.
Yeah. Another thing that we're probably gonna get to on this channel eventually, as soon as I have money with which to do this, honestly, is the honey jar spell. And this is along the same lines as the honey jar spell. We're not going to get too deep into that, but honey jar spells are definitely a lot less subtle. There's a lot of, it's a jar of honey sitting out, and you got to be burning candles and doing all this stuff with it. So the bowl is kind of, you're feeding it energy, right? Because the candle would be the energy and intent. You're feeding that honey jar, right? And whatever you put in the jar. But this one, it's more like, again, going back to the subtlety, if you can't be burning candles, if you can't be having all kinds of, like, my honey jar that I've had now for a few years, actually. I didn't really start using it till quite recently, quite honestly. But it has so much wax on it. It's on this bowl, this plate, and this plate's like this big around. And the wax comes out this much from
Because you use
the jar.
beeswax candles.
And I use beeswax on there. When we talk more about that, I'll probably get more into that reason, but basically it's because other waxes will burn out completely. And then one time I put I think it was a soy wax candle on what I'd already started as beeswax, and it melted all the beeswax off there, and I was not happy because I kind of started again, because one of the points of a honey jar is that eventually you want it so encased in wax that you can't see the jar anymore. That's part of the purpose of this, and once it's just ridiculous looking, you want to bury it. Oh. And there's rules and ways to do that, and depending on what you're doing with the jar. So again, we'll get into that in a much later video, but this is kind of, if any of y'all have heard of honey jar spells, and maybe hadn't really heard about or thought about prosperity bowls, or manifestation bowls, it's kind of in the same way where they can be used for basically any intent, and you can put anything in there, herbs, stones, what have you, right? Mine has coins and dollar bills just because you're supposed to feed it kind of what you want. You're just more of an intent thing than a physical thing, so it's a little...
but...
You still feed it other things.
I feed it good intentions. Mm-hmm. I feed it that feeling of what I'm trying to get. I feed it elements of what I've already put into it, so certain stones like rose quartz or pink opal, pink tourmaline. I've fed it my self-love blend that I've created for myself.
Oils, yep, or herb mix. Yours is an herb mix, right?
Mine is an herb mix, specifically that I've created for this. And then I also will feed it every once in a while pink Himalayan salt, or some of my specific shells that also go along with this intent. But I think I've kind of remembered a little bit of what I wanted to talk about in relation to manifestation bowls or manifestation jars. You know, you can do bowls, you can do cups, you can do jars, you can do, you know, any kind of container really. And actually, I didn't really realize it until I was kind of sitting and thinking about it one day when I was actually putting my elements together for my manifestation bowl. I have been doing a manifestation bowl, specifically a wealth manifestation bowl, for most of my life.
Oh.
But I didn't have that connection. Because growing up, it was a very big deal with my family to always have a change jar or a change cup, a change bowl. And that was kind of one of those things where what I would always do is at the end of the day, you empty your pockets of all of your change, or you empty your wallet of your change into the bowl, and it builds and it grows and it grows and it grows. But I also happen to have the thing where anytime that I found a coin laying on the ground, I always picked it up. Every single time. Like, people would always look at me like, it's a penny. Just leave it. It's fine. I was like, no. If I find any change on the ground that is unclaimed, it is mine. And I pick it up. And it goes into the change jar. And it kind of became this whole thing with the change jar of, after a while, it was so full of found money or money that had come into my life that it was I kind of imagined this energy of, it was help creating, and the more lost change that I put into it, the more change that I found, and it was, you know, it was giving back what I was giving it. And that's kind of what my change jar had become. And this has been something that I have been doing since I was like 5 or 6 years old, because it was something that I used to do with my grandpa. And then every once in a while, when the jar would get full, its job would be done. You know, there would be that, you know, kind of thanking it for doing its job. You would pour it all out, you would count it all up and divide it, you would hand roll all of it to complete everything, and you would take it off to the bank. Its job would be done, and you would start again with a fresh, never used jar. And the whole process would repeat. And I didn't really realize until I was kind of thinking about this manifestation bowl, I was like, that's what that change jar was. It was a wealth. It was a wealth jar.
Yeah, I did something like that recently. I don't know if I ever did it growing up or anything, but I had, I'm sure y'all have seen them, they've made all these bust banks of characters, especially Marvel. There's one for every single character, I think.
Yeah.
And they're always like the buffer versions. I don't know why. I guess it's to make them all more astute. And so you'll see a lot, like I've seen a lot of like the Hulk or Thanos, like these bigger kind of characters, right? Or I've seen like where it's just like the fist or the gauntlet or whatever. I have one, and it's Loki, obviously. Well, I don't know about obviously y'all, but obviously you. And it's really weird side story. So they changed the way Loki looks in the comics and in the cartoons to look more like Tom Hiddleston Loki.
He's a very popular Loki.
Yeah, so he used to look kind of like, if y'all have ever seen Batman Forever, Jim Carrey as the Riddler, he kind of looked like that with a helm. I'm not even kidding. It was like a tight spandex looking Joker jester type thing. It looked quite wild, and his costume was out there, right? So they updated it obviously for newer comics and for the new movies and everything, and then they recently just kind of overhauled it, and it's a lot more attractive than it used to be, obviously. But they made the bank like a buffer kind of Loki, so he's like really ripped for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, but anytime I'd find change on the ground, I'd call it my Loki money. Loki.
Oh.
So, and they would go into my bank, and he got heavy at one point. Like, it was a hefty bank. So, kind of the same thing, I guess.
But yeah, it's just the fact, I've mentioned this to kind of to show to y'all that it doesn't have to be anything big. It doesn't,
crazy looking.
Or crazy, or it can be as simple as you want it to be. It does not always have to be complex. I made mine rather complex because I wanted a bunch of different elements going into building this very particular thing that I wanted to be able to cultivate for months and months and months. Because I kind of view like self-love as a much more complex animal than just bringing wealth, money into my life. So that's why I made my bowl a little more complex than just like my change jar that I've had. And I guess that's something when we switch over, that's something that we'll mention is kind of the different steps that can be put into making and creating a manifestation bowl. But this is really just right now is just us wanting to kind of really quick introduce what a manifestation bowl is, what it could be, kind of some of the different things to think about when creating a manifestation bowl.
Yeah, just kind of a little overview on how it could be anything. We're just doing 2 different examples.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and we'll
slide on over to the other bit here.
We're gonna have a change of location. Changing scenes.
Clip. But yeah, so different angle, different place, different everything. But yeah, so we'll see you there, and then we'll wrap up that video on that end.
All right. We'll see ya.
So when you're actually starting out to make your own manifestation bowl, one of the first things to start with is actually the bowl itself. Like try to, whatever bowl you're going to make, try to have whatever container it's going to be in be connected or have a meaning for whatever you're going to be doing inside of it. For the purposes of this one, since I'm doing a self-love bowl, I selected a little dish that looks and reminds me of a lotus. So the lotus blossom is really important to me, and it's a symbol that I've always really connected with, but I associate it with a lot of different things, but it's tied into, for me, the idea of self-love, self-worth, self-esteem, being able to grow up through all the grime and dirt and actually have something beautiful become out of it. So for me, I very heavily associate it with the idea of self-love. So that's why whenever I found this at my local Daiso, I was really, really excited. And so this is going to be my container for my self-love bowl. And then Alex?
And then I also got mine at Daiso, and here we go. The angle's different, y'all. We haven't really done a lot of top downs before. So I like this one. I liked its size. It's actually a lot smaller than I expected it to be, because this is a drinking cup. Pretty sure it's for tea or something. Mm-hmm. But I liked the white, the black, and then they had the opposite one where it was black and white instead of white on black. And it just kind of spoke to me. We've talked about that in other videos where a lot of stuff I get is because it's like, I speak to you. But then Alara pointed out while we were there that little dots here could be bringing in something from the universe, top down, or something going into the universe, because anytime you're manifesting something, they say you should put that out, like the thought of it out. So my bowl is going to be for abundance in both health and prosperity. So, think it, bring it, basically.
Yeah. And whenever you're trying to select a bowl for this kind of work, you don't have to go specifically just based off images or shape. You can do something as simple as color. I've seen a lot of people do, if they're going to do a wealth bowl or an abundance bowl, they do it out of green. If they're doing it for creativity, I've seen them use orange, self-love, pink, romance, either pink or red. You can kind of mix it up and make it whatever you need it to. Just try and make sure that whatever container you're going to make your bowl out of, that there is some kind of purpose to it, that it ties everything in.
And then another good thing we were talking about earlier is that this is good for people that are witching on the sly.
Yes. One of the reasons why I liked this little bowl, there's a couple of different reasons why I wanted it to be white, but it's also the idea that this is going to, fit in really easily with my room, what's already in there. It's going to look very subtle. And when I'm done with it, it should just look like a bowl of stones. So it'll look very decorative. And this is a really good way for me to do something very sneakily where someone is not going to look at it and automatically think something very witchy of it.
Or for other folks that aren't necessarily on the sly, kind of like me, where I'm not on the sly, but I'm not in your face about it either. This is just something nice. It's going to go right by I put it away sometimes, but I will be putting it by my honey jar candle plate. So we'll kind of go with that, and anytime I burn candles, which we'll get to later, it'll go right there and kind of get that kind of energy from there.
Okay. So once you have your container selected, one of the most important things is for you to think about what kind of prep work you want to do or what kind of prep work needs to be done. For the purposes of this, the prep work that I ended up doing for mine was I cleansed everything. So like I said, I have my bowl, I have stones, I have shells, you know, all the different elements that I'm going to be using. I have gone ahead and I've cleansed with selenite. Selenite is one of my favorite ways to cleanse because it doesn't require sunlight, it doesn't require water, and it's safe for just about anything and everything. So I, over the past week, I have set my little selenite heart in my container to cleanse, and all of my little stones I have piled in a little crystal bowl with my selenite pieces and let it cleanse over the course of a couple of days. And this is just my general way of cleansing. As y'all may have noticed or heard the ruckus, Alex just went through her, you know, one of her cleansing things. If you want to talk about the
yeah, so this is something we're probably going to mention. We've probably mentioned, but we probably should mention again in some other kind of video where some people, anytime they think of cleansing, they think of burning something, and that's not always a possibility for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
This was made by a friend who does her own oil and spray blends, but this is a cleansing spray. So you can either buy one, or if you know how to make those, you can definitely make one. And then it's very subtle, and it smells pretty good most of the time, unless you're getting something with weird, strange herbs in it, and then it's going to smell herby, or like gym socks.
Sometimes if you need to make a cleansing spray, you can do it with just a couple of things around the house. I've done it before by, in a spray bottle, putting, you can either put salt in it, or if you're going to be using it on things that are sensitive to salt, you can I've put in quartz and citrine. Citrine is specifically a cleanser that does not need cleansing itself, and quartz is good for amplifying and for cleansing. And then sometimes I will put in rosemary into the water as well and let that, you know, kind of let that percolate for a few days, and then boom, you have your own homemade little cleansing spray that is safe on most surfaces. So just kind of something to keep in mind if that needs to be an option, because you can't necessarily do smoke or anything like that because of, you know, fire hazards, people getting sneaky, you know, getting suspicious, things like that.
Or even some of the sprays, especially if you're buying it at a store, can smell, lack of a better word, witchy. So if that's gonna give away something, salt water, or just or even doing like solar waters or moon waters could probably do something like that too. I'm just gonna anyway, I just sprayed the air and sniffed it. Sorry, folks. Alright, so
one of the other things whenever you are getting ready to actually create your manifestation bowl is you can decide what is specifically going to go into your bowl and what is going to go around it. Because I have done bowls and other things in the past where if I haven't had necessarily space to put everything in there, I have done grids around the bowl to help imbue or to help specifically intention for certain things. So this is a prime time to go ahead and set up any grids that you want to do, stones, seashells, herbs, you know, whatever is meaningful to you and will help you intention your bowls the way that you want it to be. Because I know that for a little bit, Alex was thinking about gridding her bowl if not everything that she had was going to fit into it.
Yeah. Surprisingly, everything does fit, and you're going to see as I add all my things, and I'm like, wow, that fits a lot. That would be a good old teacup.
Okay, so once you kind of have that idea of prep, you know, kind of situated and done, then you actually get to do your setup, which for me, setup is all about charging and laying the intention for what I'm doing. So for the purposes of here, I'm going to be lighting. This is a pink candle that I have been charging for self-love for couple of months.
A good minute. And
Yeah, for a
that
good
was the one
minute.
you made here, isn't it?
Uh-huh. So this is a little candle that Alex and I made together. And I made it specifically with the idea of self-love. And then I also had stones and herbs, a special self-love blend that I had created for myself, charging in here on the top to help imbue. So this is something that I'm going to have burning while I'm making my candle or my bowl. And then this is also going to play in a little bit later with one of the last things that we're going to talk about in regards to a manifestation bowl. So I have this going on for me. And then also for me, while Alex is talking about whatever her stuff is, I'm going to do the second part of my setup, which is charging. Almost everything that I end up doing, I like to charge it with some kind of water. It just works for me. So for this is actually full moon water that I have this is something that I just keep constantly in my repertoire. I'm always refilling it as the new moon comes, or the full moon comes if I need more. So I'm going to go ahead and start just charging my stuff and like imbuing with my full moon water while Alex is talking about hers.
So I'm gonna sorry folks for the moving all my rocks out of the way. Yoink. So I do that, but slightly differently. So oh man, okay. I'm gonna get some on my hands.
Yeah, you gotta wake it up.
Yeah.
Same thing with the water.
So, yeah, except this spilt without me meaning to.
Good job.
But so what this is, it's it's a very tiny bottle that I've had for many years, and I just never used it. But I finally found it again, and I was like, okay, I know what this is. So what's in here is a blend of oils. Not that I made any, but one of my friends made an anti-ojo oil, which is basically protection against the evil eye. And the other two were made in the store in Phoenix, Arizona, the Fantasia crystals that I've mentioned in a couple other videos. One is for attraction, and the other one is for motivation. So, an important thing about these bowls I thought to mention, because mine is money, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, like, I feel like money is something more than other things that's like, oh, well, it's witchcraft or whatever. Is it going to make me a millionaire overnight? No, it's not, unfortunately. I wish it worked that way. I really wish it worked that way, especially with how broke we've been for a minute. But this is something you got to really think about as, the motivation on this part is like, motivation to like really, either get a better job or really look for something. Because I've had a lot of stuff going on lately where it's a little harder for me to do normal jobs. So that is my blend. Oh, and it's not really separated right now because I've already kind of shook it up a bit. But what else is in there, but I'm going to add a little more, is my water. And this water's a little funny. Oh, it's got floating stuff in there. This was originally storm water. We had like a really wild storm like a month or so ago where it was just like raining sideways. And I didn't think I'd get that much because for whatever reason, it could be raining sideways. I'll leave a bowl out for water and I'll get like half an inch at most. Like I'll get nothing in there. And I'm like, well then. So I go out the next day and I had left like that bowl out. Actually, we have a bowl right here. And it was mostly full. Like I got this much water out of it and it had already been out most of the day. So it's storm water, but it's also solar water on accident. So it's got kind of both elements to it, I think, where it's kind of like a stormy night water and then it's a sunny water because the next day was hot. Mm-hmm. Like when I picked this up, it was like boiling water. So I'm gonna like throw a splash in there kind of just to wipe down the bowl, and then I'm gonna throw some of this on top of there.
Which I actually sometimes like combining different waters because I love storm water. I use it for a lot of different things, specifically with my lady. But I also really love sun and I love solar water. And I feel like when you try and mix something like storm water and solar water, the way that you ended up accidentally doing, it feels like it takes the essence of what storm water is, that very turbulent energy, that very strong, aggressive energy, and it kind of gives it a kick, like an extra little pop. So if you really want to kick something off or really want to just really imbue something with that kind of energy, I love that idea of all that.
So yeah, I'm just kind of giving it a big old rub. Having long nails is not great for this, folks. Just letting you know. Gets in the way of a lot of stuff, but I like having nails. So what are you gonna do? I'll leave that there for a minute.
All right. Got more moon water in here than I intended. It's a little wet. Okay, so once you are done charging everything or putting in whatever oils that you want or anything like that, just to kind of get everything in the general same flow of energy, then start thinking about what you want to do with your bowl. Because Alex and I are going to have two very different ways of doing it. For me and my purposes, I'm going to be layering my stuff in a specific way. Whereas her, she's got a whole bunch of different elements that are all going to go in there together. So for me, one of the first layers that I'm going to end up doing with my bowl, sorry, I'm going to put the stopper back on my moon water so that doesn't go anywhere. One of the first layers that I'm going to be doing is the very bottom of my bowl. I'm actually going to do a layer of pink Himalayan salt. I love the energy of this stuff. But it's more than just, I think, the fact that it's pink. So it's the fact that it's also, you guessed it, salt. So salt itself is very purifying. It's very clean. It will help cleanse as it goes, but it also is a great protector. And for this purpose, I'm using the pink Himalayan salt because when you're working, for me, in my experience, when you're working with love in general, and sometimes, especially with self-love stuff, while your bowl is doing what it needs to do, sometimes more negative things will start to kind of creep into it, or it will kind of fade out a little bit quicker, or it will, sometimes the energy will shift. Just from the energy of doing self-love work for me. So for this purposes, the pink Himalayan salt is my first layer to add as kind of my foundation to help make sure that nothing negative is going to get into my bowl. Nothing negative is going to breed here. It is only going to be beautiful, pink, self-love, self-worth, self-esteem. And that is my first base. Which are you...
Well, I think for me, because doing a totally different bowl, right? But so same thing. I feel like a lot of workings that you're gonna have out for a minute, unless you really put up the defenses, they can get a little, what's the word? Hijacked a little bit with other intentions and stuff. Like, especially like if it's in your room and like, anytime people, especially other people in witchcraft in general are like, keep the intent you want in the forethought of your mind, right? But we're people. Like, we're not always going to have positive ideas and positive, attitudes day in, day out. It's a hard thing to do. People can be negative, So stuff like this is really good to have something like she said. She has the salt rock, but you know what I mean. Pink salt. Anyway, my thing was the oil that had the anti-ojo. Kind of just all in the bowl on the inside and the outside, just because I have my moods. What you laughing at? Anyway, so that's kind of my layer, even though it's not like a thick layer like hers is. And then on my end, now I was gonna bring this up too because we did petitions, which you didn't mention.
Well, it's not. I'm not at that yet.
Oh, I thought that was going.
Nope.
Oh, anyway, so I'm putting mine in right now, actually. So, depending on if you like color coordination or not, I do. So, I happen to have a green pen. So, I wrote my petition in green ink. So, that kind of, if you like color coordination stuff, that will definitely give it an extra boost. If you don't care or don't have it, doesn't really matter. But if you like color stuff, I recommend having a color pen, marker, whatever, in whatever color you're looking to go for. So I'm going to throw that in.
Okay, so my second layer is actually, they're blue-white, I have a hard time pronouncing this, coquina? It's Coquina. Okay, I have dyslexia. Sometimes I have a hard time pronouncing things and spelling things. It just happens. But this is really good for, it's really good at aiding healing work, and it's also really good for promoting positive thinking. And it's a very gentle, very loving energy, and I love using these for stuff like this. Before I had them on my altar as like a kind of a representation of the feminine energy, but I wanted to steal a little bit for the purposes of this bowl because I felt like it would really aid it. So I went ahead and I added a little bit of layer, and then like what she was talking about with the petition, I'm actually going to add my own petition, which I've kind of pre-prepped because I did write and do my petition, and I also have a sigil in here to kind of activate and keep it going. And then I had prepped a couple of months ago for the purposes of my candle in the bowl. I had prepped my own little self-love blend. There's a couple of different things in here. Like I know that I have some roses and rosemary and cedar shavings and a couple of other things in here that I really like putting together for my self-love blend. But I've had my petition kind of soaking in this just to try and bring a little bit of that energy into it. And actually, I'm going to let Alex talk for just a moment because I'm actually going to off screen open up my little petition and put a little bit of herbs in the pouch and seal it up with some wax.
Alrighty, so on my end too, I didn't really think of putting herbs in there till very last minute, and I do have other stuff, but I thought for the purposes, I have so many rocks and stuff, and I didn't want things to just go crazy. I am throwing 3 bay leaves in there, and we have talked about these in the past, and they are good for, wish magic. They're good for protection. They're good for prosperity, bringing stuff in, and keeping the bad out. So I thought that was a good kind of double duality use there for them. So there we go. That one's a little fat. Actually, I might switch that out for a smaller leaf. That's giving me a hard time. I have a big old leaf of bay leaves, y'all.
Trying to get this thing to get some wax on it to help seal it together. See how that goes.
There we go. 3 bay leaves. Hey, that little petition, go get under there. There we go.
So sometimes you can put your petition underneath your bowl. You do not have to put it in your bowl. The reason why I'm putting mine in my bowl is 1, to help hide it. And 2, I like putting my petitions inside of my bowl just to help kind of keep everything together, keep everything flowing really nicely. I really like what it does with the energy to keep it all in one little space for the purposes of this. Which actually I need a little bit more of my shell, so I'm gonna real quick add some moon water.
Kind of give them a boost.
Give me a little zhuzh.
Oh gosh.
A little zhuzhing.
So on money bowls, because I'm gonna go back to me while she's doing her thing. For the most part, in other videos we've seen or other kind of money things I've seen or read about, most people have some kind of representation of actual money in their bowl or in their space. Now this can be bills, this can be coins. I am doing a blend of both. There are some honey jars, like the honey jar I actually have is meant for money, but I've done all kinds of stuff with it as far as prosperity goes, so it's a little bit of everything. Now this part is where sticklers are gonna stick, and I used to be a little more stickler than I am now, but I kind of...
It's been a good influence on you.
I don't care as much right now. So I'm putting this in. And then sticklers would say you want, if you're going to add coins, that you'd want 1 of each denomination in your country if you have coins. So for Americans, that'd be penny, nickel, dime, quarter. And if you really wanted to be fancy, you'd probably want like a 50-cent piece and a dollar piece. I don't have a lot of that because I don't use a lot of cash, so I am doing 3 dimes because they're all pretty new and shiny. And 3 is a good number, in case anyone was wondering. And then 3 pennies. Not as shiny, but I've been carrying one of these around for a good minute. And pennies are, you know, the lucky penny and all that jazz. So another 3 kind of...
Just a little side note for those of you that would like to do a wealth or an abundance bowl. I really like putting in change that I find laying out on the road. Like anything that I come across that I pick it up, like it kind of walked into my life. I find that that's really good for this kind of thing.
Yeah, no, for a while I had, I don't even know where this is, but I have a Loki coin bank.
Aw.
And anything I'd find, I literally called my Loki change, because Loki. So he got full. Like, he was so heavy, like, he was just solid coin, and it's like a full bust of Loki from... It's like the animated version after they changed the animated version to look more like Tom Hiddleston's version. So it looks like an animated Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah.
That's super ripped. So that's my layering. I'm not doing as much layering as she is, obviously, but
Yeah.
that's my little layer.
Well, this is something I've kind of been building up for a while. So I'm actually doing, for me, a little bit of a bigger working for the purposes of this.
And I'm just slapping a little more oil on that bill right there, in case anyone was wondering what the heck I was doing.
I sure thought that those rose quartz were going to cover up a lot more than what they did. But that is actually what I'm adding to this bowl right now. Is I'm adding rose quartz and then the other stones that I'm adding, which I'm doing pink opal, rhodonite, rhodocrystalline, and pink tourmaline, which all of those are going to work really well for doing what I want to do. Which I don't think that looks too bad.
No, that's pretty cute. Okay, time for all my crazy.
Yeah, okay. I get to sit back and grin slyly at her while I watch her put all of this into her bowl.
So we've talked, and we have more videos to come where we talk about our stones and everything else. I have a lot of different stuff. Again, back to the stickler thing, a lot of people would not suggest using so many different stones. A lot of times with grid work or other work, they kind of say pick things that go together in some kind of way, shape, or form, or at least have some kind of, what's the word? Like they're related, like they got something going on, you know? I have such a hodgy-podgy collection of rocks, though, that basically I went through like 99% of my rocks that I just could think of, and I bought a little piece of rough ruby and a piece of, oh my gosh, quantum quattro silica. There we go. Say that 5 times fast, everybody. So everything else besides those 2 I already had, so I'm just gonna kind of toss them in the soup, basically. So I will leave a list of everything in the descriptor or in the video somewhere, just so y'all know what's in there. So if you guys do want to make a money bowl, you can have maybe not all these rocks, but you at least have a good starting point. But this is pyrite. I'll do that. A lot of different rocks. I did think originally I was gonna have to grid this just because the sheer amount of rocks.
Yeah.
But it's actually working out.
But you do have a lot of stones that not only have the color association, but they also have the meaning association with them as well. So you're actually covering your bases on a lot of different sides. That's the thing. Hers is much more varied, but it all has kind of a similar meaning behind all of what she's doing. Whereas mine was a lot more of just lots of kind of the same things in a lot of ways. Just a lot less variation to it.
But yeah, like I said, got a lot of everything.
Dude, this flame is
That is a big flame.
It's huge. And while I was doing my energy work and setting everything, it started like coming towards my hand. It's kind of interesting.
And there we go.
Okay. Once I was done with my bowl, I went ahead and, like I mentioned just a while ago, I did some energy work and I went ahead and I charged it and I added some extra intention when I was, before I put in my little
It
herbs.
actually looks a lot cuter than I expected.
It does. It looks adorable. I actually really like that. But this is a really good time not only as you're going, but at the very end to just kind of add that little extra set of intention for it to do what you want it to before you kind of set it loose. Which you can do that not only by doing it this way, but once Alex is done setting whatever she's doing right now, she's going to talk to you about her plans for her final stage of her bowl.
It's finally coming off. Yeah, this still had a little tag on it, and when I threw the oil on it, the oil actually started eating through the gunk.
Oh.
So it's like...
Which was the gunk that you couldn't get off any way else.
I knew some oils would take it off. I didn't think this would. Anyway, so I liked her idea of the candle. I didn't think of it, honestly, until she mentioned it. But I don't like turning off my candles unless I really, really, really have to. And the candles I buy, ironically, aren't supposed to last as long as they do. I actually talked to the creators back in Arizona, because that's where I've gotten most of my magic candles. And they are set with intent and everything, and they smell pretty great. And they're glittery, they're beautiful. I'll probably insert a picture of what this looks like eventually in my space. But anyway, so they are supposed to burn for like 3 to 5 hours. Mine have gone as long as 8.
Dang.
Because I had gone to sleep before and woken up and they're still going. So I don't like taking them out unless I really, really gotta go. Like if they're just burning so long that I haven't been able to like leave my space or leave my room, and I will stay there. Like, so I normally burn them overnight. So that's why I'm not gonna really do the candle part of this video until later on. But and I like putting it on my honey jar, so I don't keep them. They're naked candles. So they just go on to the honey jar, and it's just a pile of wax now, and they just burn as they go. But yeah, so if y'all wanted to kind of put a little more zhuzh, I guess, onto a bowl or some other kind of working that's in a space, a candle is a pretty good idea. If you can have burning stuff in your space, of course. Don't do stuff you're not allowed to do, obviously. But yeah, so candles, or if you can, incense, I'm sure would be a good booster to certain things. Trying to think. If you have, not necessarily a cleansing spray, but there are sprays that you can do for kind of working. So like if I made my little blend into a spray, I could just go pss, pss, onto it and kind of let everything get that whole soak going on if I wanted to, which I might end up doing actually. But yeah.
And then that leads into the very last big thing with doing a manifestation bowl of some kind. No matter what manifestation bowl you end up making, it is very important that this is an interactive thing. It needs to be fed, okay? For lack of a better term, it needs to be fed every once in a while. Whether that is, that's mostly through some kind of interaction, whether it's putting something in or taking something out, or for me, it would be, I can feed it with a pink candle, being lit and burning next to it every once in a while, every week, once every week or every couple of weeks, or burning incense that specifically goes along with whatever's in it, nearby. So there are a bunch of different ways that you can feed a manifestation bowl, which even more than just, doing a candle or burning incense, you can also do more like what with Alex just said of kind of doing that final setup. She could also, later as this thing keeps going and percolating, every once in a while going in and going back in and spraying that bowl again to help feed it, to keep it going, to keep it healthy, because Manifestation bowls, if you leave them alone, they will stagnate with time, and they'll stop doing what you want them to do. So they do need to be interacted with, pretty regularly or occasionally. If you are unable to physically in some way interact with a manifestation bowl on a semi-regular basis, one of the better things you can do to try and take care of that is by setting up a grid around your bowl of stones and things like that. Specifically, I like stones because stones emit their own energy. So if you do a specific stone grid around your bowl that have those same intentions and same elements, same energy as what is going into your bowl, it will help feed it and help kind of keep it going for a longer time, so it won't need to feed as often. Things like that. They're things to think about. A good thing to do with money bowls, if you are specifically doing it to more where it looks kind of like a change bowl, is you can literally take coins in or put your change in, and that'll help feed that particular type of bowl. So things like that. So one of the things that I may also end up doing with this particular self-love bowl is I may every once in a while add a stone to it, like add another little rose quartz, or add a citrine, or add a pink opal, or just kind of feed it every once in a while. Even if it's something is every once in a while taking some of my little self-love blend and just going and resprinkling it, or giving it another sprinkle of my
The shells.
of my shells, or even just a little bit of full moon water every once in a while. Just pss, 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 give it a little flick.
Pretty much, yeah.
But I think that's pretty much it. Is there anything else that you wanted to add at this time, Alex, or are we good?
I think we're good. I think the last little bit, and I'm pretty sure we mentioned this already, was if you are putting stones in there, just be careful for things that could damage them. So if you are working with something that doesn't like water, obviously don't put water in it.
Yes.
If you don't like things, if there's things in there that don't like the sun, don't leave it on a sunny window, etc., so forth. So if you're using stones more than anything, or even if you have stones, but then you're layering something on top of the stones, that might just take out the worry anyway. But that about covers it, I think.
All right. Thanks for tuning in and, listening with us. And please, if y'all, end up making your own bowls, or if, this inspires you to do some kind of similar thing, or even if you just have questions or comments about it, please let us know.
Yeah. Actually, I was gonna say on that, we'll leave it in the descriptor below, because I just thought of this and I don't know what I want to call it quite yet. But we do have an Instagram, and if you do make something like this, or you want to just kind of chat or kind of post or something on there, we will leave our Instagram info down below, and we will hashtag the bowl. So we can, if you guys want to post anything like that, you guys can just, post it up there, and we'll be like, hey.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.